Welcome to the VarsityKansas.com Big Show. I am Joanna Chadwick of the Wichita Eagle and VarsityKansas.com, and we are taping here at KSN. My guest today is Valley Center football coach Caleb Smith. Thanks for being here, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I have Caleb on the show because we have 3 area teams still playing, and of course, it's a busy week for them. So thank you so much for coming on to talk about these teams.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's talk about Class 6A first of all. And Hutchinson will be playing Shawnee Mission East, which beat Olathe North in double overtime. Of course, they were in the championship game a year ago against Derby, where you were an assistant before.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what you've seen on Hutch. You've watched them quite a bit on film, haven't you?
I've seen them a lot on film. They're really big, really physical. They run right at you. Their running back is one of the best I've seen. And I watched the end of the Shawnee Mission East game, and really gutsy call by coach, but doesn't surprise me. He does a really good job with his scheme, so I'm sure it'll be a battle in that 6A game.
Well, and talk too about Ryan Cornelson coming in. I mean, he was at La Crosse, and then he goes to Hayes, and then he comes in as Randy Dryling heads up to St. Thomas Aquinas. He comes in and takes over. Can you find me a tougher job to follow a coach in than following Dryling at Hutch?
Yeah, I'd have to say Alan Shuckman at Carroll. I mean, he's just been there so long, and they're just so good that I don't think anybody wants to touch that job when he's done.
I think you're probably right. How tough do you think it was, though, for Cornelson to step into that position?
Oh, it had to be tough. I mean, you had to be confident in yourself and what you do. Dryling was such a great coach and turned around a program that wasn't very good and took him into a dynasty. But Coach Cornelson does a great job, too, and I can remember when his dad was at Liberal and those battles, too. He's learned from a great guy. So Hutch had a good coach, really good coach, but they got a really good one now, too.
Now, have you ever thought about having your dad come on as an assistant for you?
Well, we'd like to, if we can get him out of Western Kansas. Yeah,
right.
Trying to get him this way.
All right, you'll tell me that, though, so I can break that story?
I will. Yeah,
All right,
you'll be
good.
the first to know.
All right. All right, well, let's look a little bit at Class 5A then, where we have Bishop Carroll will be playing St. Thomas Aquinas, which I don't think anyone figured that after St. Thomas Aquinas loses 3 of their running backs, their top running backs,
Right.
and that team wasn't very good a year ago, but of course Dryling comes in, does his magic, and here they are playing for a state championship.
Right.
That's crazy.
It just shows that, I mean, having a good coach is very important. I mean, you got to have the kids. That's most important, but it takes a coach to put it together, and Coach Dryling's the best there is, and that's going to be another meeting of the minds with Shuckman and Dryling. I know they've battled in the past, so.
No, you're exactly right, too. They've met in the playoffs, and I know when they were at Hutch, when he was at Hutch, they actually talked quite a bit about trying to get Hutch and Carroll in the regular season, too, which would have been awesome.
Oh, that would have been really cool, yeah.
Talk a little bit about Carroll. This is a team that you saw during district play, and what is it that so impressed you with them?
Biggest things are defense. I mean, they're good in all 3 phases of the game. You can't find a weakness really on their team, but their defense is the best I've seen in high school football, either as a player or coach. And there's just, like I said before, every single one of those kids probably deserves all league, all metro, all everything. So even if you can find a way to stop, Goolsby and Howe, you're going to have a hard time scoring on them, and that is what makes them tough. So.
Well, and I saw that against Salina South the other night where, Howell gets 2 picks. I mean, they were both off tip passes. I mean, they were just kind of unfortunate and good fortune for Salina South.
Right.
But here they are. They get the opening kickoff. They start in Carroll territory. On the first interception, they start in Carroll territory. Yet you have this defense that I think you had told me before when we talked was that trying to find a weakness there too, or it kind of gives you a headache as an offensive coach,
yeah.
right?
You almost feel hopeless. I mean, you can't. Almost every team you play, you can at least find something you think you might have some success with. And watching Carroll's film before we played them, it was tough. We couldn't find anything. And knowing how good their offense was too, and that we had to score points to give ourselves a chance, it's tough. It's one of the best teams I've seen.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with what they've been able to do this year. I think probably the stat that heading into that semifinal game that stood out to me so much was the 215 tackles for loss.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous. How is that even possible?
Yeah, I mean, you can't move them. Their D-line, they just get by you. Base schemes aren't very good against them. It's just tough. Their speed's so good, you can't get to the edge. You can't throw the ball. You don't have time, or they're not open. So it's one of the best defenses I've seen.
And then offensively, I mean, Colton Howell does a nice job back there. He can run or throw. Denzel Goolsby is the poison that Salina South chose to try to stop the other night.
Right.
And they did for a little bit, but then, of course, Howell was able to use his own legs.
Right. In that read game, some teams, if one or the other is a week apart, you take away the guy that you know is going to hurt you, but you can't really do that against Carroll. It's kind of like Derby last year, the guys they had in the backfield with Dunham and West, it was the same way with them, and there's other teams that are like that, but it makes it real difficult on D coordinator.
Well, and that's one thing too, going back to 6A real quick with Blake Middleton, is this is a kid who he uses his speed, and also I thought it was fascinating, the Free State coach told Tony Adami, our writer, that the holes were not that big. And what is it that makes a back able to get through those?
Oh, I mean, just how hard he hits it, and watching film on him, he's incredible. Probably the only one that would compare to him I've seen this year is Goolsby, and but not only that, but he can break tackles too. He's a strong kid, so having that threat for Hutch along with that huge offensive line they have, I mean, they're big and they hit you off the ball, and that's tough. Anytime, same thing Dreiling always had too when he was there, is they just hit you in the mouth, and there's not a lot of high school kids that really want to take that on.
All right, let's move down to Class 4A Division I, where Topeka Hayden will be playing Miege. I'm taking Miege in this one. Ryan Willis, of course, he's headed to Kansas. He is an outstanding quarterback. And then 4A Division II, this is the first year for 4A to be split into two, and we have Andale playing Columbus. And Andale, this is a team that we can always count on to be.
Oh yeah. I watched them last year in the playoffs, and they don't do anything fancy. They just run right at you, and they have maybe 2-3 formations, and they do them really well. So he's done a great job down there for a long time, and I'm sure that won't change in the future.
Well, I mean, this is a team, too, that I'll be writing about this week. And, the thing that impresses me is the number of backs that they have. Because you could sit here and talk about Anthony Capel. I mean, he's only a sophomore, and yet you've got Hank Eck in front of him and Hunter Knobloch in front of him. So it's really pretty impressive what they do have, just the depth, which is what we're seeing, too, like with a Bishop Carroll. What we saw last year with Derby is the number of players.
Oh, yeah.
And how important is that to just winning a state title?
I mean, depth is important, but also just having that. You can't just take one guy away and beat them, and there's some teams that you play that if you see them win one big game and then lose a game they shouldn't, that's usually why. But with teams like Derby last year, Hutch, teams that have multiple threats, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to stop them.
That's for sure. All right, looking in Class 3A is Scott City is going to be playing Rossville. Both of those, I mean, Scott City needed an overtime win over Halstead, and Rossville gets its first win over Silver Lake in the playoffs. That's pretty impressive there. And in Class 2-1A, it is El Saline versus Opie. I hope you get out there this week. It's Saturday. You don't have to worry about Black Friday. That starts Thursday, right? Get out there, watch some high school football, and I hope that you enjoy your games. I hope those days are nice. I don't want any of these cold days that we've had recently. Thanks so much for watching the VarsityKansas.com Big Show, and we'll talk to you next week.